This video is about what a consulting arborist is and how we differ from other arborists. An arborist, specifically a certified arborist, is someone who has a minimum amount of work experience and or education, and they've been able to successfully pass the certified arborist test. This test covers a lot of aspects of arboriculture, from fundamental science to practice to safety. This credential is the one that is most familiar to clients. People will definitely ask if you have certified arborists on staff, or if you yourself are certified. Definitely expect that. And cities will require that tree assessments or arborist reports be done by certified arborists. So I would consider this to be the most fundamental certification, even though there are other things like the tree climber specialist that do not require you to have as much experience before you take the test. It is, however, a different test, and it's not for everybody. It's for people who have climbing skills. In my opinion, if you're a good student, if you're academic, as long as you have the work experience, this test is not a problem. It's like studying for a class. There are a lot of ways that you can qualify for the test. It includes some amount of work experience in the industry, or you can mix it with education. So I fulfilled my requirements by having a master's degree and just 1 year of work experience. If you do struggle more with it because you're not academically inclined, there's a lot of resources out there for you to help. I'm going to do a self-plug here, which is that I have a second channel called Arborist Study Guide, and that is aimed at helping people become certified arborists, so you can check it out. As a certified arborist, you can have a huge variety of jobs. You could be a landscape architect, a gardener, a tree climber, a grounds person, a plant healthcare tech. You can work for a nonprofit tree planting group. You can work for a consulting arborist firm. You can do all kinds of things. And honestly, when you're working in any of those positions and a client or somebody asks you a question about trees and you answer it, technically you're doing some consulting at that point. So what is a consulting arborist? Compared to an arborist who's pruning trees or putting down chemicals or something like that, a consulting arborist primarily offers their knowledge and their opinions as a service, and that's intended to help the client make some sort of decisions. In an ideal situation, a consulting arborist does not have a conflict of interest, meaning that there's no financial benefit that they have, no ulterior motive in making those recommendations. The kind of work that you end up doing can be tree assessments. It could be more advanced with tools like resistographs and tomography. It could be a value calculation for damage that happened to a tree. You could be reviewing construction plans and putting together arborist reports and tree protection plans for the project. You may just be doing general tree inventories for a HOA or a community that wants to know about their trees. At some point, when you get more comfortable, you can also get into legal work where you're acting as an expert witness in lawsuits that involve trees. And like I mentioned, anytime you give your advice, you're doing consulting already. It just kind of depends on what the client hired you for at that point. Because a lot of sales arborists get commission from selling tree work, it can be difficult for a client to know if those recommendations are genuinely in their interest or not. Is the arborist making recommendations that don't actually need to happen now? Like, sure, this tree could be fertilized, but does it actually need it? This tree could be pruned, but does it need it now? Could it be put off? Or is the salesperson just trying to get more commission? That's a real problem that people deal with, and so that's where the consulting arborist comes in. They could review the trees instead and say, this is what I think it needs, and this is when it should be done, and that's the extent of their work. So the client knows that this person is not going to benefit financially from me any further, and so I can trust their recommendations. But that's not always the case, because consulting arborists can also work for tree services, which is what I did starting off. So there are ways to keep that conflict of interest at bay, but there's always a concern, unless you're working solely for yourself or for a company that does consulting only, that there is some perception that you're going to benefit from your recommendations. I'll talk about that in a different video.